Doctor prescribes drugs that made my wife cheat on me with her boss. My wife started having an emotional affair with her boss in March. I caught her a few days into it, found the texts. She agreed to stop and we started couples counseling shortly thereafter. A month later, she saw a psychiatrist for the first time. She was diagnosed with bipolar and borderline personality disorder. He said that the affair was most likely the result of a manic episode. There was also a lot of careless spending. She maxed out a couple high-balance credit cards. He put her on 5 different medications, including the antipsychotic Abilify. Meds were gradually increased. By June, she was taking 15 milligrams of Abilify daily. During that month, she didn't seem like herself, almost emotionless or disconnected from reality. The compulsive shopping started up again, along with other strange erratic behavior. She finally confessed to having sex with her boss on 4 separate occasions during the month of June. She had a major panic attack while telling me and said she doesn't know why she did it. I was honestly in shock. We've been married 10 plus years and I could never see her doing anything like this. My first reaction was to file for divorce, but I'm having a tough time because of the circumstances. The way I see it, cheating is a choice, and regardless of her mental health issues, she still knows right from wrong. I didn't believe medication could be a factor at all, but after having talked to a therapist, her psychiatrist, and reading some stuff online, linked a few articles below, I've started to wonder if the meds played a factor. Could they have given her that extra nudge? Can a prescription drug really have that kind of effect on a person? Also, she admitted that when the incidents of infidelity occurred, alcohol was also involved. I guess I'm looking for any advice. She wants to salvage the marriage and get her illness under control. I'm devastated and completely broken right now. I'm scared if we stayed together that this could very well happen again. Forgot to mention, we have 2 young children, so that's also something to consider. Hoping someone with a similar experience can offer some guidance. Can it work, or is it hopeless? I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Thanks. Let's see what kind of advice the community has to offer. Rage Sadness All in One says, there are certain drugs that can have an effect on someone's dopamine levels. I'm on one right now. Frankly, I'm shocked that your wife's doctor would put her on drugs with those known effects, knowing that she already had issues with those specific areas. I take roperidol, and my doctor was very upfront with me about the side effects before giving me the medication, and was very careful to check in with me frequently while weaning onto it for both spending habit changes and sexual behavioral changes, because of its known effects on people. I have a friend of a friend who, after 25 years of marriage, also started on this same medication, and within 3 months, spent his entire 401k on escorts and gambling after work. He and his wife are in counseling and they got to the root of the issue, being the medication, but his doctor never warned him about the side effects. OP, that doesn't absolve her of any wrongdoing. When these things started, she had an opportunity to say, something's really wrong here and I need help. She was seeing a specialist, so I also blame them quite seriously here. While under their care, she not only got worse, but was not monitored. She does bear some responsibility, but there is definitely a grayer area here than normal. However, I don't believe that mental health is an excuse to cheat, and I don't believe that her actions shouldn't have consequences. And you should still be allowed to feel how you feel and go through the normal betrayal process. Your feelings are still valid, regardless of the small extenuating circumstances on her part. Please seek a new doctor for her. This is quite sad that it got this far while under medical care. Next bit of advice from Terser78. You're trying so hard to justify it, but it's unjustifiable here. You caught her early enough, got her the help she needed, and it still wasn't enough. So how do you save her now when you're drowning yourself? You did your best to give her what she needed. It wasn't enough. It will never be enough. She is too far broken and now she has broken you instead of fixing herself. So work on fixing yourself by getting rid of her. It's your only chance at real happiness again. Czar Bandit has a thought. I do agree with what others are saying. I'd like to expand on what they wrote and add that a common trap you might fall into is to stand by her no matter what. This could be very damaging and unhelpful to everyone, including her. It might be that divorcing and taking custody of the kids is the right thing to do for the short term. This is to protect yourself, your kids, and your assets, their future, while she sorts herself out. Imagine she had schizophrenia and she was hallucinating that spiders were attacking her kids. So she started attacking these imaginary spiders and injuring your kids in the process. Would you stay? Would you keep your kids in harm's way? You wouldn't, I hope. You also wouldn't wait on the sidelines for her to get better while she possibly attacked your children. This illustrates a principle. Wait and see, aka do nothing, isn't an acceptable answer when there's an acute risk. Now, you have to ask yourself, how acute is the current risk? Is it bad enough to walk right now? That's the question. I think the answer is yes. Cheating is resolvable by separation. Maxing out credit cards is well over the line. That risks the future of your children and you. Also, while it's hard to quantify her exact culpability in choosing to cheat versus not being responsible due to mental illness, it's definitely not zero culpability. So, to the extent that divorcing her feels punitive, she deserves it. Some of this is on her. Rest assured, she would have absolutely no compunction about dropping you in a heartbeat if you became injured and could not work, or some other problem arose. Don't extend loyalty where none is reciprocated. But mainly, you must separate finances and obligations, or she will drag you all down in her spiral to the bottom. Your duty to your kids is to protect them. That includes from the other parent, if necessary. In my view, you've more than exceeded that point where you are compelled to act. In the event that this course of action is an overreaction, then you'll both move on from it with minimal problems. But if you underreact, then she could implode all of your lives. So from a risk management standpoint, the choice seems clear. None of this bars you from getting back together again later. So hope for the best and allow for it as a possible outcome, but plan for the worst so you don't get wiped out. Okay, on to the update. My wife wants to have a threesome with me and her affair partner. Posted about my situation previously in r/surviving infidelity. We're attempting to give the marriage one more shot. We've since started seeing individual therapists as well as going back to our couples counselor. She's also seeing her psychiatrist more frequently to get meds under control. She was diagnosed with bipolar and borderline personality disorder earlier this year. Something happened yesterday that raised a red flag for me. My wife actually asked if I'd be willing to have a threesome with her affair partner. She claims that she believes it could somehow help with my healing because I would no longer associate the affair partner with the affair, but instead with a shared sexual experience. Makes no logical sense to me, and it has me second-guessing my decision to give the marriage another shot. Part of me thinks this is just her way of having sex with him again, and it being okay. She said threesomes have always been a fantasy of hers, and she only suggested it, because it would be easiest since they already have that connection, and there are still residual feelings there. I've never had a threesome, and I suppose I'd be open to it, with rules, if our marriage was in a good place. But I can't imagine ever doing it with the affair partner. I hate this guy. Has anyone ever done something like this? How did it turn out? Would love to hear any stories. I'm honestly contemplating divorce again at this point. Am I being irrational? Could this actually be a good thing for our marriage? I just don't see it at all. Would appreciate any insight. Ask for some advice, and you shall get it. Know Your Shadow says, threesomes, wife sharing, and other forms of ethical non-monogamy require extremely high levels of trust and commitment as the most fundamental prerequisite. You guys are not anywhere near a place like that. This can in no way help things. One shoe missing added, and definitely not with the affair partner. Next piece of advice from Sailor Jack N. I would agree. Although it's unknown for some guys to sexualize fear of infidelity or pain of infidelity by engaging in wife-sharing activities where they are directly involved. For some guys, it does accomplish a few things. It puts them in control by being the one in charge of saying what and when things happen, taking them out of the position of the victim. Some guys can change the feat of infidelity or pain of infidelity into sexual excitement this way, but it's certainly not for everyone. For some guys, it takes the sex between the affair partner and the wayward wife out of the shadows, rendering it less threatening. The monster you see isn't as scary as the one in the dark. But it isn't something everyone will find effective. You'd have to be into that kind of thing, at least as fantasy, to start with, for one thing. And as has been pointed out, you'd have to be able to trust your wife to stay within agreed-on boundaries. However you look at it, it's a mental trick some guys can play on themselves to help them deal with the intolerable. That being said, there is some reason for concern at her offer. While she might have read about this online, and there are a lot of wife-sharing fiction about this online, her motive could be suspect. It could be she is sincerely trying to help, but more likely, she still has sexual desire for him and sees this as a way of being able to get him out of her system without cheating on you again, which I suppose is better than just cheating with him behind your back. Anyhow, there is reason for concern, not only because of her possible intent, but also because she may already be in contact with him again. Lastly, from Scoo's Rude, I think it would be over for me at this point. This is not reconciliation. This is your wife coercing you into things that only benefit herself. On to the next story. Cheated on the love of my life, now living with the guy I had an affair with. I, 33 female, met him, 34 male, at a Halloween party in 2009 while we were in college. It was the hardest I had ever fallen in love with anyone. Pretty early on, I knew I wanted to spend my life with him. Our honeymoon phase felt like it lasted an eternity. We traveled, we partied, we connected. Plain and simple. It was a connection I'll never have with anyone else. We got married in 2012 and bought our first home in 2013. Buying our home was something I was so excited about. However, he seemed indifferent about it. I was the one to make the appointments with the lawyer, real estate agent, house inspector, etc. I made the whole down payment with my savings. At the time, the down payment bit didn't bother me because it was going to be our home. But what did bother me was the fact that it felt like he was just a tag-along and not really involved in the process. Little things like this kept happening and naturally bothered me more and more. He wouldn't tidy up after himself. He never took the initiative to take out the trash or mow the lawn. He needed constant reminders. At one point, I stopped doing his laundry because he wouldn't put any of his clothes in the hamper and just leave them in a heaping pile in our bedroom. I called it the blob. I said that I'd only wash whatever clothes he puts in the hamper. When he ran out of clean socks, he'd rewear an old pair from the pile. During this time, I'd expressed some frustration, but not enough because I didn't want to be the naggy wife. Our sex life was eventually reduced to almost nothing. I thought there was something wrong with me. I had no libido. I ended up having an affair with a man I worked with, and I felt horrible the moment it started. He was that guy at work that all the girls drooled over. I thought he was a cocky, arrogant douchebag at first, but the fact that he was interested in me felt good. I remember the moment my life took a turn. He sent me a text message, and although I can't remember what it said, I remember thinking, depending on how I answer, this will change the course of my life. As the title implies, I went down the wrong road. Many times during the affair, we called it quits to be able to figure out our own relationships, but we'd always eventually get drawn back to one another. In 2015, my husband and I had a daughter. I had no contact with the other guy while I was pregnant or during my maternity leave. The dynamic between my husband and I changed when we became parents. He never once offered to let me sleep in on weekends. It was always my responsibility to book vaccinations or doctor's appointments for the baby, and I just didn't like that. I wanted a partner, someone I could rely on to share the load. Again, I didn't say much because I didn't want to nag, but I felt like I had 2 children. I felt like the only adult. Needless to say, that wasn't helpful for our sex life. Aside from these things, he was and still is an amazing father, and I wouldn't have chosen anyone else to be her dad. My husband and I separated when my daughter was 1.5. Shortly after, the man I was having an affair with left his wife. My husband moved out, and the other guy moved in with me. We were in the house I bought with my ex. I don't know how to describe my life now other than it feels like I'm in purgatory, like my life is on hold or something. It's hard to explain. On the one hand, the other guy has been amazing. He is a great partner and doesn't need reminders to pull his weight around the house. After 5 years of being together, my sex drive is still on fire with him. Plus, he treats my daughter like his own. On the other hand, I miss being able to talk to my ex the way we used to. Other guy is nowhere near as good a listener as my ex was. I miss that special connection. It has been 5 years and I still think about what would have happened had I just dealt with the issues I had with my ex. What if we had gone to counseling? What if I had told him how much these things bothered me? What if I hadn't responded to that stupid text message from the other guy? Would we still be together? A big part of me thinks so, but then another part of me thinks that I'd never be able to get over the mother-child dynamic we fell into, and we'd have a sexless marriage that would eventually lead into separation. My ex has a girlfriend that he's been with for a couple years now. They had a son together. It's been incredibly hard, but my ex and I have done a badass job at co-parenting. We talk each other up to our daughter and have made the absolute best out of our circumstances. I'll always love him, and I don't think I'll ever get over the guilt of what I did to our family. I'm incredibly remorseful. My only hope is that someone out there in a similar situation might read this and choose the right path. Let's check some reactions from the community. SickRM says, some people will never be happy. With your ex, you wanted a better sex life and someone who pulled their weight without any reminders from you. You get that, plus he treats your daughter well, and now you miss how your ex listened to you. Sagman92 says, what do you want? You should be happy. You said your affair partner is an amazing man. Move on. This is everything you wanted, right? The problem is you. You can never be satisfied. There is always something missing. I suggest you focus on yourself and fixing your problems. The way this is written, it would not surprise me if you started cheating again. Last comment from Awaken the Guardian. I don't understand why you moved your affair partner into your home. What did you expect to come from this relationship? I hate to say this, but your ex is probably better off, and I'd love to hear his side of the story. Alright, let's switch gears and check in with r/cheating stories. I'm pretty sure she's cheating. How do I confront her? So I'll try to keep this story as short as possible. Background. I previously dated my current girlfriend for about a year and broke up over some dumb stuff. 6 months went by and I was depressed. I reached out to her, but she had started dating a new guy. She said she wanted to get back together, but her current boyfriend is super controlling and was also her RA at college. She's 25 and went back to school. She said she tried to break up with him, but he wouldn't let her. Thus, she said we would have to wait 2 months, i.e. the end of the semester, before she can officially block him. She said she was living like a divorced couple with him in college, haven't had sex with him in months, and it was the dumbest decision she made dating someone at school. For those last 2 months, we hooked up every time she came down to the city. Current. She is studying externing abroad now in Europe, and right before she left, we spent an amazing weekend together. A week after getting there, her ex posted a story to his Instagram exposing her for cheating. Specifically, she downloaded Hinge, a dating app, and started flirting with guys in Europe. I had no clue. Her ex posted her profile, which was super flirty, and her convo with some guy. He reached out to speak to the guy on Insta somehow, where she clearly stated she was looking for something casual. She told me everything as soon as her ex posted that on Insta. She said she was looking for people to hang out and get tips for Europe, and she was looking at it as something platonic. Right now, she is on extern and doesn't have any US colleagues. She even changed her profile to clearly state she was looking for something strictly platonic. I clearly asked her if she wanted to be single while in Europe because she's young and is going to be there a while. She said no, she wanted to be with me. I gave her the benefit of the doubt as I don't want to be controlling as her previous ex. But just the other day, I downloaded Hinge, changed my location, and saw that she changed her profile description from stating she was looking for something strictly platonic to someone cute. This made me think back to our FaceTime convos since she has been in Europe. For instance, she was almost always drunk every night, and I assumed she was just by herself checking out restaurants and bars. Now I'm assuming she's going on dates and getting drunk. Should I confront her using her Hinge profile, wait till I find out more, or cut her loose? I was planning on visiting her at the end of September, but it doesn't seem to be worth the money if she got side dudes. To the courtroom of the community. Slip Outside says, I think you should just show her what you found, then break it off. Don't even let her explain. Don't get all dramatic, just be blunt and forward. KTM429 says, well, she cheated on her ex with you. What makes you think she isn't going to cheat on you while she's there? At this point, you're her fallback plan. Show her what you found and ghost her. She deserves nothing less. And finally, from Shetzo. You're her backup option while she's actively looking to hook up in Europe. That, and given her history of cheating and lying, at this point, I don't even know if her ex was really as bad as she made him sound to be. Anyway, I think you should just move on and date around yourself to help get over her. She's placing you as a backup. So you think if she finds someone she likes and they agree to date seriously, how fast do you think she will ghost on you? When people show you who they are, believe them. Her ex showed you and everyone else, and only then did she come clean about Hinge. She's a walking red flag at this point. Cut your losses and move on, buddy.